Coming up on today's edition of Locked On Eagles, it's Mock Draft Monday, and Gino and I are going to explore a trade-down scenario in a couple mock drafts later on in the show. But first, the Eagles signed a linebacker that a lot of people like this weekend from the Los Angeles Chargers. We'll dive into all of that and more coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day, Monday through Friday. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Louis DiBiase. He's Gino Camilleri. You can find the show wherever you get your podcasts in video form as well on YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter at Locked On Birds, at GC24_football, and at DiBiase LOE. Today's episode of Locked On Eagles is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before because BetOnline is where the game starts. As I said, today is Mock Draft Monday, but we're going to do it a little bit different. Gino and I did some mock drafts over the weekend exploring a trade-down scenario after we heard what Mike Garafolo said on 97.5 The Fanatic about this exact topic, about, the post-Watson-Wilson trade world with the Eagles and where they sit at quarterback, potentially exploring 2023, giving Hurts 2022. That's coming up later on in the show. But, Gino, first, we got to get into a signing the Eagles made, and no, it was not one of their own. They brought in on Saturday morning former Los Angeles Chargers linebacker Kyzir White, a 26-year-old coming off a career year, over 140 tackles, 2 interceptions, and a sack as well, a former safety in college turned linebacker. And it was only a 1-year deal. But, Gino, to me, this has one of those value Howie Roseman signings that turns into, and I'm not guaranteeing this, but it has the vibe of like a mid-season contract extension. I think this is a good player the Eagles got for the right price. And the consensus around Chargers Twitter, Eagles Twitter, all NFL circles, they all sound to be in agreement.
And Los Angeles Chargers cornerback Chris Harris Jr. even said the NFL hasn't been watching this guy, basically hyping him up, saying that if this guy was on a different team, let's say in a bigger market, right, he would probably get a ton more praise. And this is the exact type of free agent you want to go for, Lou, on a defense that is very, very good. We know that Staley is the defensive mind there. He has a fantastic defense. I even saw somebody say that Staley and Gannon are best friends, and he wouldn't have been shocked if he called up Gannon and said, get this guy on your roster because he'll know that you'll fit his scheme, and the way he plays will fit your scheme as well. And I look at Kyzir White as a player that, you say safety to linebacker, you might think of Nate Geary. Get that out of your mind. This isn't a guy
that's like too big to play safety, but too slow to, or too big to play safety, but not big enough, not a good enough tackler to play linebacker. I mean, I think Kyzir White, he showed last year he can work through the mud and he can fly sideline to sideline. Like, he's not a tweener like Geary was, or Sorensen from the Chiefs. Like, that's not this player.
No, not at all. And when you turn on Kyzir White's tape, like, he just creates a 5-car pileup wherever that guy goes. And also add the athleticism that he has, being able to track sideline to sideline. What this Eagles defense was missing was that type of player, in my opinion. And Davian Taylor is nice, right? But he's still trying to learn the game in terms of like coverages and stuff, but he excels against the run. So if you could free up Davion and TJ Edwards to play the run, get one of those guys in there in your rundowns, and then have Kyzir White, who could be a key cog in this coverage machine. We've been saying forever, we just need somebody that could cover tight ends and running backs. Well, you might have just found that guy. And he's not a free agent that just was hanging around there. No, he comes from a good defense. He was an impactful player.
A defense that me and you have wanted to look like for a long time, right? I mean, that's part of it. And he is a every down player that even like hopefully more dime packages come this year with added safeties in the draft. And he can be that one linebacker you have pretty much on every down. And it's good insurance for Davian Taylor considering the injury history, but also, Gino, this could be good in nickel situations where in passing situations, you don't have to rely on TJ Edwards as much. You could have more in those kind of situations, Davian Taylor and Kyzir White on the field. I just think it adds more speed. Hassan Riddick too, and that's something the Eagles defense desperately has needed the last few years is speed. With Riddick and White and a healthy Taylor hopefully next year, like that's a lot of juice you add.
I look at the two guys that these moves have replaced in Hassan Reddick and Kyzir White, and now the element of speed that you have at those positions. Not also that, I think they're more well-rounded than the guys they replaced. If you look at Jannard Avery, he was really a liability in coverage. Like, he couldn't do a lot of the things that Reddick really, I know he's proud of that. He even mentioned it in his press conference that he loves dropping into coverage. Kyzir White, same type of thing. Singleton is good against the run, right? Guy couldn't cover to save his life. Now you have two guys in there who are much faster, much more athletic, much more instinctual. I think they're going to free up a lot of things for the guys inside, right? Because they're going to have these chess pieces that they can move along the edge, along the weak side of the play, and let the guys get after it up front, because you're now going to have a linebacker who had 144 tackles last year be able to clean up things in your defensive secondary. And I don't think he's just going to be a guy that's just a weak side linebacker. He's going to line up as an overhang. And what does that mean? I tweeted about it the other day. The overhangs, they usually hang right behind one of the defensive ends, right behind one of the tackles, and they're about 5 yards back, because one, it kind of hides them in there as a run type of defender, but at the same time, they're going to be used to cover guys out in the flat, out in those curl areas where tight ends are coming from, where the running backs are coming from. It's more of a do-it-all type of linebacker position. Sure. You can go through, I mean, Nick Saban calls it the star. These guys that come in these nickel situation, in these big dime situation, which realistically, he could be a guy that if you're down a safety, you hypothetically could throw back there. I mean, not in like deep coverage, but a guy that can be in a split coverage situation just to change things up when you want to go out of tendency.
Well, and it's just better when right now you only have Anthony Harris and Marcus Epps in safety. It's good to know that, you know, again, they're going to add more. I bet they're going to invest a high pick at safety, and maybe they still bring in a free agent, but it's good to know at least at linebacker, like last year, you had to rely on linebacker a lot more than you did in years past with what Gannon likes to do, and with the lack of safeties compared to the past. It's good to know you at least have that kind of speed and that dynamic player at linebacker. It does, you know, make you feel better about the safety position as well, Gino. So I think it's a good move, and I don't think this takes linebacker off the board early. I would still love Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean, but at the same time, the Eagles already don't invest high picks in linebacker. When you have, again, normally a one-year rental would not impact your draft strategy, but this is different. Like, this is a 26-year-old that, again, is coming off a career year and is what a modern-day linebacker is on every down. With Davian Taylor and House still and TJ Edwards, like, that's three young linebackers coming off career years. I don't know. The Devin Lloyd, Nakobe Dean stands on Eagles Twitter. Proceed with caution for sure.
I would say so as well. And the situation that Kyzir White leaves isn't of his own fault. Like, our friend over at Locked On Chargers, David Drogemeyer, had said that the whole consensus through Chargers fandom is that they would have loved to see this guy stay around. Yeah, they just threw a bunch of money
at J.C. Jackson, and they traded
J.C. Jackson. So you get Khalil Mack. You got to pay Bosa. You just drafted a linebacker high last year. You got the trio of safeties back there. He's just the odd man out, unfortunately. But fortunately for the Eagles, you do bring him in this situation where he's the key guy I look at, Lou, for like a midseason contract extension. Yep. We talked about this with Anthony Harris last year. If he played well enough, I really see Kyzir White playing up to that potential, because he's still only 26. He still can bang at the linebacker position. He can cover anybody on the field, track sideline to sideline, filling a need for this team. That's one of the biggest things we were looking at. Can we have a linebacker?
I want a guy that can just hunt down, and you know what I mean, and not get caught in space. And that's a player you added. Yeah, I definitely agree. And again, I don't think it completely changes your strategy, but I already had my doubts about, as much as we'd love a Devin Lloyd, I already had my doubts. And when you bring in somebody like Kyzir White, if you brought in, LJ Fort was different, or who was it, Corey Nelson, or, like Jatavis Brown even. And look, I've been scarred.
Let's hope that Kyzir White makes it to the season.
But again, and those players too were more stopgaps, where this is, again, a one-year deal, but this is different than those other linebacker moves. This could be a long-term player on this defense, and with a good value move, he bet on himself, and we'll see if it cashes in. But I like the move the Eagles made for sure. And again, with Riddick and White now, I think that they did get a lot faster on the defensive side of the football. Gino, coming up next, it is Mock Draft Monday. We're going to do things a little bit different. We're going to explore a trade down scenario for the Eagles. They have picked 15, 16, and 19 in the first round. If they want to try and collect a 2023 pick and move down from one of those picks, Howie Roseman normally doesn't sit still. What would that draft look like? Gino and I both explored our own mock drafts with that strategy. We'll get into that coming up next.
But before we do that, we have a message from our friends over at the most delicious, best tasting, healthiest protein bar on the market. That is Built Bar. Make sure you head over to built.com today and get any of their delicious flavors. They have their puffs, which are marshmallows covered in chocolate. It's essentially a s'more inside a nice little package that you can put in your purse, put in your backpack, take it on the go for basically anybody. If I had a kid, I would give them this instead of giving them candy, in all honesty. Also, because it has less sugar, only 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, 130 calories, and 17 grams of protein per bar. Go to built.com today. Get any of their wide selection of flavors. Use the promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15 for 15% off your order today. Built Bar, they don't skimp on the flavor. They make sure it is delicious first before they put it out on the market. Some of those protein bars, they just stuff chalk underneath chocolate. No, Built Bar, it is actually delicious. They have a wide variety of flavors. They have their puffs variety, and they're always coming out with limited edition flavors. Make sure you go to built.com today. Use the promo code LOCKED15 and enjoy your Built Bars.
All right, Eagles fans, welcome back into Mock Draft Monday on Locked On Eagles. We thank you for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Make sure you're also following the Locked On NFL podcast. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories across the league every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your shows. I'm Louis DiBiase. He's Gino Camilleri. Gino, today on Mock Draft Monday, we've been exploring a lot of different things, taking different positions at 15, 16, and 19. We've explored if they would have made a big trade for a quarterback like Russell Wilson. What would that mock draft have looked like? We've got, my guy mocks coming up soon. We'll try some trade ups. Today, we're going to explore a trade down. Howie Roseman talked to the media today, and, he mentioned his free agent strategy and, how the outlook of the offseason looks right now. And he mentioned a few times those 4 picks he has on day 1 and day 2 and how that's going to be part of building the pillars of this foundation for the long-term future. It sounds like a guy to me, although he doesn't tend to sit still in the draft. He's only done it a few times throughout his tenure as general manager. It does sound like a guy that's ready to invest in the draft heavily this year. But even with that being said, I still think he's going to want that flexibility. I think he likes the flexibility he has in this year's draft, and he's going to want that again next year, especially if the plan is Jalen Hurts gets another year, and let's reassess quarterback next year. And if we need to make a trade up, we have another pick to do so, like they do this year. So in that scenario, Gino, they're still going to have a lot of picks this year, but I think it's something that they would want to explore because they can kind of have their cake and eat it too in that way. Even if you give up a pick and you move down, you're still going to have, odds are even in that scenario, you move down into the second round and still have 4 picks.
Yeah, I ultimately think that if there's a trade down scenario, Lou, that they walk away not only with that additional pick in 2023, but they find a way to still make 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. I don't think they want to get out of that narrative that, we're going to have 1 less selection. And I know Howie Roseman made a point today to say that you got to be able to play all these guys, right? But to me, that makes me believe they might be a little proactive in some of these selections, picking to fill in a pillar that potentially could be gone next year, i.e. Jason Kelce. Maybe they take a Linderbaum type selection, right? Because he's not going to play right away. But at the same time, you're still making the 4 picks in day 1 and day 2 that you had expected. And when I went about this, Lou, I went under the presumption of what past teams have done. A team like the Kansas City Chiefs that moved all the way down from way back in the first round to get Patrick Mahomes. Look at what Pittsburgh did with Devin Bush a couple of years ago. They give up a first-round pick to go down and pick a linebacker. If there's a team out there and they're willing to go back and give you an additional first-round pick next year, you are in the driver's seat because you still have 2 first-round picks.
Right.
You could
And
potentially walk away with 3 and have a second-round pick and
That's
another one in
even in a move down scenario. It's not like you're giving them a first and not getting another one this year. Like, you might not get a first, but you could collect an extra 2 this year and a 1 down the road. I'm in on that, Gino. If they're not going to go, if that is the plan at quarterback. And again, the tough part though with this conversation is it takes 2 to tango. I think a lot of teams probably have this same mindset and want future assets for a stronger class next year. So it's going to be tough, but you look at Pittsburgh at pick 20. I don't know if Desmond Ridder falls. Would they see him as somebody that they'd want to move up for? Daniel Jeremiah on Move the Sticks talked about the other day, the Chiefs potentially exploring a trade up for a wide receiver. He mentioned the Eagles and the Chiefs by name, saying he could see a move up to 15 for the Chiefs and they take Jameson Williams from Alabama to replace Tyreek Hill. That's the tough part, is it will take 2 to tango. But if they do find a partner, they could still have some really good drafts, from this year. Like, you look at our mock drafts that we did this weekend. I want to go to yours first because you started this up on, I think it was Friday, right? I mean, look at this mock draft, and this is from trading down, right? You moved down to 27th overall. You still got Jordan Davis. You got your Drake London might be the top receiver in this draft. Lewis Cine, that's better value for a safety. And then Christian Harris at 51 in the second round. Like, that's a pretty good haul. And again, it's more of the, have your cake and eat it too kind of mindset.
And what I did, just so everybody knows where these picks came from.
Yeah.
I was at pick 16 after I got Jordan Davis, who is a very, very legitimate target for the Philadelphia Eagles, that if he is on the board, you can absolutely write home that they will probably take him. At 16, I'm saying I didn't like the guys that were there. Tampa Bay. Mr. Tom Brady's only going to be there for maybe another year. He wasn't on the team last year.
It's another team I didn't even think of. Yeah, good point.
What if they want a quarterback? What if they're like, okay, we have who we have in-house now, right? This first-round draft pick is going to be a late first. Yeah. Let's go get our guy to replace Tom. And that's where I started the wheels on this thing. So I sent number 16 and a 6th-round pick, and it got all the marks to be approved via the Draft Network's trade. And I got 27, an additional first next year. And with that, I still walked away with Drake London, Lewis Cine, and Christian Harris.
If they can do that in back-to-back years, doing that from Miami last year and pulling that off again this year, it would be great. I like this draft a lot. And I love the Lewis Cine pick at 27 because I really want a safety early. But it's like at 15, 16, and 19, I'm like, it's just a little too early for a Jaquan Brisker, a Lewis Cine, a Jalen Pitre. But if you move down, that makes more sense. Like, people talk all the time, like, don't force a need. Okay. But if you really want one of those safety prospects, you can make it worth the value more by moving down. And then it does make more sense. Lewis Cine at pick 27 would be atop your board. I think he'd be pretty close.
And the way I look at it, Lou, is you're approaching that 15, 16, 19 selection, right? Let's say in those 5 picks, they only have 3 guys graded with first-round grades remaining. Let's just say that, right? Because we know teams don't have 32, quote, first-round selections, right? Let's say they make their pick at 15. They make the pick at 16. Those guys go off the board, and then 19, you're sitting there. I think that might be the pick you move. But 16 right now, I don't know if they make back-to-back selections. It's going to be tough to do that right there because you have to say those guys are valued about a pick apart from each other. And if you don't have that, I would be hesitant too. But at the same time, if I could get a second-round pick on late day 1 because my first-round board is cleared out, Lewis Cine, Jaquan Brisker, those secondary safeties past Lewis Hamilton, I'm thinking about Formula One, past Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, that's a prime picking area, right, Lou? And the same for guys like, I'd say if George Karlaftis started to fall back there, I would maybe think about moving back in that case.
If you move down too, it might make more sense for David Ajabo. I know he just tore his Achilles, but if you move down, it could make more sense, especially with the depth you have right now with pass rushers on the edge. I think there's a lot of options.
I believe he was on the board up until I think 29. So you could have made that selection at 27. And if you didn't get one of the top edge guys, you open up that optionality now. Like, you're not forcing the pick, but you're still getting value back and still getting the guy that you wanted all along.
And I like the trade down scenario a lot in this year's draft, because right now with a lot of the way, and again, mock drafts are different. Like, it's not gospel. Don't take them as such. It's not biblical, but for me, at the same time, most of these mock drafts I'm running into, it's like most of the edge rushers are gone. Most of the corners, or even Andrew Booth hasn't been there for a lot of the ones I've been doing the last week and a half. I'm finding myself at 15, 16, and 19 being like, damn, there's a lot of prospects that I would love from like 19 to 32, but at 15 to 16, it's a little rich. Guys like Lewis Cine, a lot of the safeties, the second tier, like Kyir Elam. I think he's in play for the Eagles from 19 to 32. Trent McDuffie as well. There's players like that. Some of the other wide receivers too, like, Jahan Dotson or, Christian Watson. There's players like that you're like, it would make a lot more sense if I could just move down a little bit and collect some more value, hopefully for the future. And, another part of this, like, you pulled it off where you got a first round pick in 2023 with this mock. I would even, move down and take if I can get a future too, like that, any ammo I can get for next year, and I don't have to move down like a whole round or two in a trade down this year, I think is something they should explore. Today's episode of Mock Draft Monday on Locked On Eagles is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I simply don't have enough time in the day to prepare the amount of healthy meals I need to get through. I've got a lot of jobs right now. I'm working with Locked On. I have a day job as well, working with Fox 43. The day and evening grind is real, and I simply needed more energy. I'm also at the radio station in Buffalo. I needed good feeling energy, so I started relying on caffeine, which was not the move. My eyes were twitching when I was sneezing and coughing because I was using too much caffeine. Now I've been on Athletic Greens for a few weeks, and I love it. I feel so much better, and it doesn't taste like a healthy product either. Sometimes you can, have those healthy products, protein bars, mixed drinks, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like drinking chalk. This is not that. It has a mild, really smooth tropical flavor that I'm really into, and I really look forward to it every morning that I write my articles for Fox and edit our podcast. So what is the stuff, though? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all of those things. I've sent it over to my brothers as well. My one brother lives in Florida. He's a health nut. He's loving it as well. It supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity, which is so important, and alertness. It's the one thing with all of the best things. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit that I got into for a bit. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That is it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NFL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
I think what you said with Pittsburgh could be like a key area that you explore with the second round pick potentially, right? Because that's only a few spots. You're moving from 16 back to 20 right after that 19th selection. Yeah, I'm in on that. And they did that when they selected Dallas Goedert. We were all ready to go, waiting for the last pick of the first round. We're going to go into the night. No, we don't even get a selection because they went on to get an additional second round pick, which is something Howie Roseman loves. This guy is like a kid after Halloween, opening up all his candy. Like, he wants as much value as possible. And he's seen the Danny Watkins drafts and the Marcus Smiths. He knows now, in my opinion, Lou, where to take guys and what the value of those players are. I don't think there's like that much of a difference in his recent drafts in the top. Like Landon Dickerson, I think he got better value for than when he took him, right? Like, he should have been a first round pick, in my opinion. Devontae Smith was the number one wide receiver.
There's one thing Howie Roseman has always understood his value. I remember back in 2014, although I say that and say 2014 with Marcus Smith, but the second round, Chip Kelly wanted to take Jordan Matthews in the first round. And Howie Roseman's like, no. Like, we can get him in round 2. Like, he understood the board and the way things worked. The issue is their alternative. But yeah, I mean, I think one thing Howie's always been good with is reading, league value and where guys are going to go. And I think I do trust that part of his evaluation.
I agree, Lou. And that's why I'm saying right now, and the scenario that I mentioned with potentially they only have 15 guys with a first round grade, right? Well, your second selection's at 16. realistically, you might get one of those guys. If you want a couple of them, you might have to do a little wheeling and dealing forward. But we're saying the worst case scenario here, right? Like things maybe don't work out for you in the top of the board. So let's move back, collect more assets, and pick a Lewis Cine, a Trent McDuffie, a Christian Watson, a Jaquan Brisker, where they should be selected. Don't force the first round pick, force the value. Find where they are valued and make that selection there. There's all sorts of books you can read on what it takes to move from one position to another. And I love Chip Kelly. I always remember this from, I forgot what pick it was, but they traded out of a spot. And it was when they moved and they got Detroit's pick for the next year. I think they moved out of the 5th round and got a next year's 4th. And he said, we'll do a trade. All we do is punch in the rounds. And if the numbers say do it, we do it. And it's that easy, really. Like, you can read Fitzgerald and Spielberger from Over the Cap. They have a book on it. That's what I do when I make to look at these trades. Find the value, know what the picks are worth, and don't give up more than you're getting back. And Howie Roseman, out of all GMs in this league, doesn't get fleeced on trades when it comes to draft picks.
It's a good point. Gino, here's what I did with a trade down. I got a little creative. I was inspired by Howie Roseman's 2016 draft where he moved twice. So I made a deal originally with the Kansas City Chiefs. And so I moved down with their first round pick, or I shouldn't even say the first round. I collected their first round pick in 2023 and got their second this year. So very similar to what they did in the 2018 draft with the Baltimore Ravens, moving down from 32, getting that second rounder, a future pick, and getting Dallas Goedert. So I moved down there, took Jordan Davis at 16. I'm telling you, Kaiir Elam makes a lot of sense at 19 for the Eagles. I think they really want length with this next cornerback. And watching Gino, like, quick twitch, like fluid hips, the way he can change direction. Sometimes with long corners, that's not the case, but watching him at his pro day at Florida today, Kaiir Elam can move. I think he makes a lot of sense with that 19th pick. I like him more than Trent McDuffie, Roger McCreary. I think he makes more sense for what the Eagles want. And then so what I did was I came back into the first round, like a lot of teams like to do, so I can grab that 5th-year option. And I moved up. I traded the second I got from Kansas City and a third, got back in with Detroit at 32, and I took our guy Christian Watson from North Dakota State. I'm telling you, we've been saying it, me and you, since the combine, and people are getting in on it now. Christian Watson is going to be a first-round pick, and Christian Watson, Quez Watkins, and Devontae Smith would be a fun trio.
And I even like what you did after that, Lou. Like you get Jalen Pitre.
I love Pitre. It
could be one of the top safeties in this class.
Yeah.
Ideally, they get one of those players that you said. Like Christian Watson is a perfect, like, not first-round guy by value, but could be a first-round pick type of player. Roger McCreary, I think, is in that same boat. Like, maybe he's the best player on the board for you by a wide margin, and you're willing to move back into the late 20s, early 30s to make a selection like that. Then you grab Majai Sanders, man. Like, you're walking away with all of the positions of need while accumulating value and getting guys on the field that are going to play right away. Like Jordan Davis is going to come in, be the zero tech right away. Kaiir Elam would probably be the cornerback number.
Elam's getting a lot of Xavier Rhodes comps. You sign Rhodes, let Elam sit behind him maybe even for a year.
Yeah, they haven't addressed that position yet, man. Like they can play right away realistically, whoever they draft.
Watson, I think Watson would be a starter over Pascal. Pitre would play right away. I think him and Jaquan Brisker are the two guys, in Lewis Cine at safety, that I think instantly they're your best players at that position if you can grab one of those three. And then, Majai Sanders, like, a lot of the time has been seen as like a second, third round pick, but I think he's dropped a little bit after the combine. He put some weight back on. I think he does have a good amount of upside, though. I like his traits. And in the 4th round, you grab an edge. I think both of us with this trade down really, I think, did a good job. And I think it's pretty realistic for, what the Eagles could try to do. Again, the problem for the most part, because I think they would instantly do this if they could, it's finding trade partners who might have the same mindset as you. Sometimes that's just like, 2015, 2021 too. Sometimes teams just won't trade with you. And that's the problem. Sometimes you want to do a deal, but again, it takes two.
I think in this class, Lou, it's really going to be where does the team see value, right? Like, I believe there's going to be a bunch of different positions where we're saying, oh, that guy got selected before so-and-so, right? But the team might grade that person out differently because of their scheme, because of the traits that they want. And then you're sitting in a position where maybe these teams identify somebody that they like more than you, and you're saying, okay, I could go back and get my guy, but I'll also grab a second-round pick or a 2023 first. Yeah, it does take two to tango, but in this class where there isn't like the premier guys in their own bucket, it's kind of like all mishmashed together. It just really comes down to what the front offices see in the prospects. And I think Howie Roseman will wait till the very last second to make that call on who they're going to draft, because there could be a team that frantically is saying, okay, our guy is there. He's the last first-round pick on the board for us. You're at 19. We want that pick. You have the leverage. You don't have to move. I could sit here and make this selection, right? You're in the leverage and the driver's seat when you are trading back. That's the one advantage you have. When you want to move up, you got to make sure that other team is willing to give it up, willing to give up the player that they might want. But trading back, you're saying, okay, I'm just going to get the pick of the litter. I'm fine because I got Jordan Davis. I got Kyer Elam, and I'll pick up another pick or two and still get a guy that is high on my second-round board.
You can find these mock drafts on our Twitter accounts. Hit us up. We posted them already at GC24_football and at DiBiase LOE. Retweeted them as well on our show page at Locked On Birds. Monday through Friday, guys, we have a podcast for you. This is Mock Draft Monday. We have a mock draft, too, every single Monday leading up to the draft. Gino, it's officially a month away, or it's the 28th of April. So
4 more left, bud.
Four more weeks, and we have a ton of draft coverage for you. So, again, subscribe wherever you get the podcast. Subscribe on YouTube as well. Exclusive videos. I just did a video on my takeaways from Howie Roseman's press conference down at the NFL owners' meetings. You can check that out. And, again, we're always on Twitter talking birds. We're going to sign off for today. Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Now make sure your second listen is the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. As Gino said, the draft is coming right around the corner. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker, they bring the NFL draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and front offices. It's free and available wherever you get your shows. For Gino Camilleri, I'm Louis DiBiase signing off. As always, thank you for downloading, thank you for watching and listening, and let's go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.